Another reason why I left fundamentalist churches in Christianity is because the fundamentalist churches I've been to teach its members that dating for fun is a sin. Or at the very least, an unwise choice. I grew up in an environment that basically saw dating as wrong. If you've ever heard of the book, I Kissed Dating Goodbye, then if you read it or are aware of it, you already know where I'm going with this. Basically, fundamentalism believes that any relationship that focuses on romantic or sexual fulfillment has to be in a marital relationship. Dating really isn't permitted. Now, there are more liberal churches that focus more on finding a compatible life partner or companion. If that's the kind of life you want to have, and you really want someone of the opposite sex or of the same sex to just go through life with, there's nothing wrong with that. I just prefer being by myself. I like being by myself, but I'm not lonely. I'm not alone. I'm always doing something with another person. If it's usually not in person, it's remotely. I'm part of fandoms. I have my own YouTube channel. I'm always connecting with some group of people. I have a lot of subscriptions where I watch and enjoy how people interact with entertainment. And when I'm not doing all that, I'm definitely taking classes for social, racial, and inclusion awareness. So I'm always busy doing something. I'm never alone or unhappy. That doesn't mean I never get lonely, because being human means you get lonely. But it's not a big deal for me. I spend Valentine's Day by myself or watching some interesting movie. I'm just 45% of people out there don't want the traditional nuclear family, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting a nuclear family either. But there's something about church. Fundamentalist Christianity, Calvinist, Baptist, they believe that any relationship between people of the opposite sex, and some churches will actually deny that you can even have a platonic relationship with the opposite sex. They think of courtship as a prelude to being married. Courtship is an audition. The problem with this is, and I'm not saying that all courtship is bad. Of course not. I mean, you can be a mature person, not even religious, and want more traditional relationship courses. There's nothing wrong with that. However, the idea of religious courtship is because they don't want people to traditionally date. There's this expectation and overwhelming pressure and just people having to get married. And the only way to do that is by, of course, courtship. It's the older version of a prelude to marriage. Back before cars were a big thing. And this is back before the 40s, where kids didn't go out in cars by themselves because cars were a luxury. It wasn't until, I would say, the baby boomer generation, the 50s and 60s, where young people could actually go out on dates without their family present, when dating actually became a popular thing. Before that, courtship was always near family or near access through a male or female guardian. That's just the way it was. I'm not saying it's okay. That's just the way society did it back then, especially if you were a woman. The the idea that you can't have anything but a specific relationship that has to move toward marriage. If people just want to hang out, they want to have fun and enjoy being young, learning about relationships, maybe it won't end in marriage, maybe it won't even end with a long-term commitment, but they want to experience life. There's nothing wrong with that. As long as the person you're with or the people you're with are aware that's why you're in this relationship and they consent to it. I believe that there's nothing wrong with dating or courtship. As long as the person or people you're involved with want the same things as you do and are aware this is the relationship they're only going to get. If you're a kind of person, man or woman, who does not immediately out of the gate at the first or second date explain, I'm not looking for a long-term relationship and I just want a casual thing, I think you can really hurt people. And maybe it's not even intentional, but if you need to make sure that the other person is aware of what intentions you have. And even if your intentions are just having fun and going places, that's okay. Just don't hurt people doing what you're doing. If the person or people you're with don't understand or realize this is just this kind of relationship or the lack of a relationship, people need to be transparent and immediately make sure that their desires and that they are compatible with each other. I always look at relationships, unless someone says specifically they want to be exclusive, monogamous, and traditional. Don't expect any date to bloom into a relationship. And that's really how the secular world does dating. If one or both partners does not immediately make it clear, or at some point make it very clear that they want a traditional monogamous exclusive relationship, just assume it's not a relationship, it's not long-term, and the person is not serious. And the church doesn't understand, at least the fundamentalist churches I was in, they don't seem to ever get that relationships don't always have to lead to marriage. Sometimes people are finding out the difference between friendship, romantic, sexual, or long-term love. And there is a difference. You need to have life experience. And if you date and marry the first person that looks at you, you might lose out on a lot of life experiences. That's why I always say don't marry young and don't settle into long-term relationships until you've lived a little. Just make sure the person or people you're living with or want to experience what real living is knows that's what you want and they're okay and they consent to it. Just don't hurt people. But the church seems to believe that if you're not progressing toward marriage, you are default hurting people. And that's not true. That's not true. Not all romantic and intimate relationships go to the altar. I know many celebrity relationships that have been going on for at least 4 decades. They've never married, they have a family, and they have more commitment in the relationship, more trust and intimacy than anyone in a committed relationship that's been together a year. The problem with one size fits all is you are devaluing and dehumanizing people who choose or just never get to the group you want them to join. There's a lot of shame in church for couples that don't get married or have a child before they get married, or get married and never have children. It always feels like the church is obsessed. They worship marriage, they idolize and hold up to the detriment of anything else. Marriage, family, fidelity. And there's a good percentage of people on this planet that don't want traditional marriages. They don't want marriage, period. They want to travel. They want to see the world. And if they have a long-distance relationship, that's fine. Other people might want the relationship without the physical intimacy part. Some just want to go through life by themselves with platonic friendships instead. There's nothing wrong with that. The problem is when all religion idolizes and worships either virginity or having a bucket load of kids. That's why certain people are still married. The image of respectability. And that's why certain people like Anna Duggar can't leave her marriage. It's better to be dead than divorced. And that's such a terrible way to live. When you go through life in a religion believing that marriage is the most important decision you'll ever make, that it's a lifelong commitment, that everyone is the same, they all want the same things, you're going to lose out on a lot of life experiences. All kinds of people you're going to have to erase because they don't fit what you want. And it's not enough that you want it. You have to force it on everyone else. You have to legalize it. You have to ban other things. And then you dehumanize people by treating them or limiting access to political and religious authority positions. We already talked about how if you're not a traditionalist, married, monogamous person, you have almost no hope of being in senior leadership in any church. It's almost impossible to find a job as a pastor while you're single, especially if you're in the fundamentalist denominations that worship the worst parts of being single, married, or just going through life. And at the end of the day, I don't want anything to do with a patriarchal institution that sees only one way to live, one way to love, and one type of people that are worthy of being loved, to have a wonderful life, and to experience the joys of either being alone, being by yourself, choosing platonic friends instead, or having a non-traditional, very different but unique relationship. People can go through their whole life thinking they're broken, there's something wrong with them, they're a deviant because they just want to be with somebody without the legal privilege or legal responsibilities of a piece of paper. And if you think a piece of paper, like a marriage license, is going to make your relationship more stable, more loving, more intimate, more enjoyable, more long-lasting, you are deceived. Relationships that are legally recognized, I would say almost 2 out of 3 of them end in divorce, or with one of them dead. Because the more domesticated you become, you just start adding and multiplying the odds of being in a bad relationship, because every 10 minutes, people who can't choose good partners or may have never learned what a good partner looks like due to familial or domestic past behavior, they lose their lives because our society brainwashes people into believing a relationship is the most important choice and it makes or breaks your eternity. A relationship is great, but it should not be the most important decision of your life, and it should not define you as a human being. It's just a different choice on a government tax form. Yeah, you might save some money, but no matter what money you save being married due to taxes, is it really worth the 60% chance of divorcing and losing much more money in alimony than you ever saved filing together? And 45% of American women, don't want traditional things anymore. Because when you realize you, as a woman, always gets the short end of every stick, you realize that you don't have to be boring. And you can be traditional, you can be heterosexual and not be boring. But in the religious circles I've been in, the most unhappy, unsatisfied people on this planet are heterosexual, cis women who are in traditional relationships. Dating for fun is not wrong. Courting somebody for the purpose of life experience or to get married, there's nothing wrong with that. Make sure the person or people you do it with understand your intentions, want the same things, and that they're not being hurt due to miscommunication.